to the first bit. We'll recover it just for the purpose of the video. So the VMs that I've given you, you've got access to SAP here. Double click it, it'll open the first window of SAP, which looks like, let me just close that one, which looks like this window here. So SAP log on 740, 730, 750, doesn't really matter, all exactly the same. This screen is not encrypted, okay? So you can interact with this using your object cloning. So just drag and drop object cloning, select the relevant window name, and then you can just drag and drop simply across, okay? You can see everything's accessible that you need to access. Yeah, it always opens defaulted to connections, so you don't need to worry about that bit. And on this bit over here, it's a list view, so even though you can't get to the actual object, if you drop it, you'll see that it's actually available. What you can do, just deep check the path, expand it. Down at the bottom, you can see your connection name. Tick that, give it the name of the connection you want to use, it will find it. From there, you can just go ahead and say, oh, click it, make it click. Click, there we go, left click will do. So you click it and then you can do copy paste and just capture the log on button. Okay, so this screen's completely different. This screen's fully encrypted. Okay, so anything that's below this line here at the top, you can't get at the objects with object cloning. So if I was to try object cloning on this, what we're going to see is I can just see a bloody big window frame. Oh, wrong window. Let me select the right window name. Because obviously the window name changes, so SAP, there we go. So what you can see is it just picks up the frame. Yeah, it's the same with anything outside of this top toolbar is normally not accessible. Okay, so it's in frames, you can't get at it. That's been a restriction in our tool for a long time. But hopefully it'll be sorted soon and it'll be accessible as part of object cloning like it is in some of our competitors. Okay, so it'll make the whole process a lot smoother. As it stands right now, what we've got to do is we've got to go through scripting or we've got to go through keystrokes. I'll show you scripting first. Effectively, what we need to do is we need to click on the TV. We need to make sure scripting's enabled. To do that, this TV here, we find script recording and playback. Remember, the guys, it's on the second screen. It's not available at the place where you log in. Okay, so script recording and playback. In here, we can see records enabled, which is good. That means we can record, and you can see play is also enabled, which means we can play. So as a rule of thumb, that's good. We're good to go. So very quick recap there, because I know that was a bit obfuscated. What we've done is effectively we went to check our scripting is enabled. Okay, so if it's not enabled, we then went off to see, okay, can we enable it? So we went to options, we went to scripting. We saw if we could have a tick here. We can tick it, so all good. We don't need to worry about RZ11 at that point. We can just tick it, happy days. We click OK. If we can't tick this, then that means we need to check RZ11. So we go to RZ11. We use our SAP GUI. We've got user scripting, first of all. So this one, just press enter. On that one, we need to make sure the value is true. If it's not, we can change the value and set it to true. There's no issues with doing that, as long as the client is comfortable with it. The other thing we need to do is if the recorder is not enabled, we can just add the recorder bit. So disable recording, display that. And again, if it's set to false, that's where we want it. But if it was set to true, we can change the value and set it to true. Okay, and then that enables the scripting. If we can't change the value in RZ11, basically we cannot use scripting without their IT department enabling it, because it means that it's disabled at the server level and is probably part of their company policies and procedures. Okay, so at that point we have to revert to, oh, connection's gone. At that point we'd have to revert to using keystrokes. Does that make sense so far, guys? There we go. Okay, so where were we up to? Yes, so before my internet dropped, we're just covering off that essentially we've checked the scripting's turned on. If it's not, we've checked our options to see if we can enable it. If we can, happy days. If we can't, we go to RZ11, we check SAP GUI user scripting, make sure it's true. Set SAP GUI user scripting, disable recording, and make sure it's false, assuming the client's happy with us to do so. And if we don't have this change value option, then it's disabled server side, so we can't do anything with it. So we just need to let the client know that we can still interact with SAP, but it's going to be at a text level. So it's basically navigating via using the tabs and the text. It's fine. There's no problem with it. I'm assuming there's no user poking around on the machine. Obviously, if there's a user there, then it introduces room for error. Okay. So as long as it's an unattended bot, there's no issues. Okay, so we've got scripting enabled. We're happy with everything. So now we can start using our SAP Metabots. So what is the SAP Metabot? Let's go back to this home page. In fact, let's just re-log on, make it easier. So back to the home page, just reconnect. So how do we navigate around this? Well, you've got a few options. You can actually access this bit up here with object cloning, and you come right into that user. You can also, Greg, can you press mute, mate? You can also press enter in here, and that will then navigate you to a transaction. So if we take a transaction, let's just use RZ11 for an example. In here, if we want to set parameters, you can try object cloning. Chances are it won't pick the various bits and pieces. And again, we can see the window names change, so we're going to make sure that we're always pointing object cloning at the right window as well. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh that and select the window. We may be able to get at it, but no, you can see we're in this big box here. Okay, so how do we get around that? This is where the SAP Metabot comes in. So what we can do is we can drag our SAP Metabot in. There we go. Drag that in, and what it does is you basically tell it to connect to the existing session. Yeah, so connect on existing session. Session number is 0. Click save. Okay, that gives us an active connection now to this window and anything in it. It's not driven by the window name. It's purely driven by the session. Okay, so next thing we need to do is we need to tell it what we want to do effectively. So to be able to do that, you've got all these options down here, but they all require, or most of them require, a object name. So if I was to look at, for example, execute click, it wants a GUI ID. If I was to look at set text or select action, it wants a GUI ID. So how do we get the GUI ID? This is where the recording comes in. So basically what you do is you open up script recording and playback, you click record, you do what you want to do. So RZ11, I've already come to that, sorry, let's just do it again so you can see what's going on. RZ11, tick. And then in here, we'll just type the SAP GUI user, SAP GUI slash, oh, for God's sake, SAP GUI slash user scripting. We'll click on the button so it's not the capital. Bear in mind, this is case sensitive. Click on the display button. And then what we can do is we can stop the recorder. And what happens is it creates a script file out to this location here. So we just click on that more button, and then we can access the script file. Open up the script file without the script.vbs on the end, so you can come to the location, and what you can see here, we've got a VBS file. Just edit it, and what you get is you get something that looks like this. Okay, you're not interested in this top section. What you're interested in is this section down here. Okay, so what you've got is this section here, the wind from wind 0 right up to the end of the text, up to the end of the speech mark. That is your SAP object name. Okay, so if I was to read this, what I can see is it's finding by ID, TPFY struct name, setting the text to RZ11. But that was the first one where I said, oops, I don't want to do that. I actually want to use the top one. So this is my WNDK OKCD, is effectively this bit up here. So that's OKCD. So that's my object name. To prove that, what we're going to do is we'll just take the information out. So if I take that, for example, there, my object name, come here, let me select it properly. There we go. And then within my SAP Metabot, I'm just going to tell it to set some text. So we've got to connect on the session, so we can't overwrite that one. What we'll do is we'll just create another one, and we want to tell it to set some text. So execute set text action. Just move that out of the way. We give it the GUI ID, and we tell it we want it set. I'm just going to put Bob in it, for example. Save, and then we can run these two. Bearing in mind, you've always got to have your connection. So if you're testing something further down, you're just going to have to add the connect on the existing session before it'll let you run. And what will happen is it doesn't activate the window either, so this will happen in the background. So I'm expecting, it did activate the window for us, but you can see it's set Bob, okay? And likewise, if we take this back a page, so you remember this bit that we couldn't access through the object cloning. If we look at where we wrote into that, so I know that I wrote SAP GUI user scripting. So that's the idea of where we wrote into. So we can copy that bit. We can take that out. And again, as I say, let's just do exactly the same thing. I'm going to write Bob into it. Just click save, run that, and what we should see is it will write Bob into where I wrote the thing. So it gives us full interactivity. It gives us full interactivity with the stuff at an object level that we can't get at with object cloning at the moment in time. So what you can see, bang, bang, that one didn't activate the window, but if I show the window manually, we can see there's Bob. Yeah, make sense?
Yeah.
That is effectively all there is to the SAP Metabot. So you've got all your different commands in here. Basically, use your commands, use the get GUI ID of what it is that you want to click on. Click by object name, does what it says on the tin. They all do what they say on the tin, you know. Where sometimes these don't work is sometimes the set text doesn't actually register the text that you've set. So what you do is you click on the object instead, and then you use insert keystrokes.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you use an insert keystrokes, use the active window option, because then you don't have to worry about making sure you've got the correct name. So if you drag insert keystrokes in, down at the bottom, you've got active window. Okay, that way you don't need to worry about making sure you've got active window name, because it should already be active, even if it's hidden in the back. So basically what Vikram said is this is the transaction code. So if a customer doesn't know what it is, chances are they will, but if they don't, you can actually get it from down here.
Down here.
And you can type it in up here. Okay, and try it from here.
That works. Later.
Yeah, there you go. So /n. So nice little handy hint there from Vikram. Thank you, Vikram.
Yeah.
So that's an easy way of getting directly to pages. Normally you'll find clients will know the page numbers, but sometimes when they don't, that's a handy hint. I didn't know that one, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Other things worth noting is if you've got scripting enabled but the recorder isn't enabled, you could potentially use something in here called traces and do a session trace. You just want to have the which one is it? I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the clicks. I'll send an email with this on, but basically you can enable one of these, click enable, do your actions, and then stop it and view the trace. And sometimes that shows you the actions as well and the object names.